My name is John Dara. I'm a socio-political activist from Kwara State. I work for the integration of Nigerians to live in harmony. I work for the protection of the minorities and the weak people of the society to be empowered. This is my story.
I'm Honorable Joe Ediowole, a member of House of Representatives representing Esan West, Esan Central, and Igweben Federal Constituency, Edo State. This is my story, and my story is survival. Working hard, getting committed, focus, set a goal, and a vision comes louder when the goal is called.
My name is Emmanuel Ajio. I am from Benue State. I am Tiv by tribe. I hail from Gwe East local government area, Benue State. Taraku is my town. And I lived almost all my life in Benue State until recently when I moved to stay in Abuja because of work. Work actually brought me here. But back then, growing up as a child was not a funny experience. For some of us, we really went through thick and thin. But here we are today. Now, if you go back to my childhood, I come from a family of 8. We are 6 children, 3 boys, 3 girls, and then my parents, my father and my mother. And in this family, we are from a very humble family. Humble in the sense that we had almost but nothing to start with. We were living in my uncle's house, until some few years ago when we had to get our own plot and, of course, have a small building where we call our own. But back in those days, growing up in my uncle's house was not very easy. Because one, my parents are uneducated. My father, in fact, is a deaf and dumb person. So they only managed to train him to be a tailor, which was the work he was doing. And tailoring then was not like what it is today. So most times the little he could get to bring home was not even able to feed us for 3 meals in a day. And my mother was a trader. And from the little trading she was doing, it was just to manage and eat, And thank God for the government, we had free education. Primary school then was free. So we were enrolled in school and there we were. But I remember some difficult times when we were expected by our teachers to buy textbooks. We used to call them reader then, And one would be sent home. I remember so many times I was sent home to get my reader, get my textbook, English textbook. And I went home on several occasions. My parents could not even provide the money to buy such textbooks. And I had to stay home sometimes a week, sometimes 2 weeks, because if you go back to school, the teacher or the teachers will send you back. So it was that bad. But for me, even as little as I was, I made up my mind that I would go to school. No matter the odds, no matter the situation or the condition. So there I was with my siblings and we forged on, We'll stay at home, we'll come back. Sometimes you don't even have the uniforms to go back to school when school resumes. or the only pair of uniforms you have will be torn, but you keep patching them. It was a funny experience, but for the boys, you sit on the floor, because then primary school, we didn't have desks or chairs and tables. You sit on the floor until the back of your uniform is chopped off and you have to go patch it, And since my father was the teller, well, that wasn't a problem. But then, such issues as, getting your textbook, sometimes writing materials, you have one book for 3 subjects. So you can imagine how difficult it was for us then. But I managed to go through that, And then back home, sometimes we don't have food to eat. You go to school empty stomach, and you have to stay there maybe during break time. If a classmate buys something like granules or something, you beg them. If they give you, fine, you are able to eat. And then you come back home. Sometimes no lunch, or if you have gari in the house to take without maybe sugar or granules, you take it. But at least dinner was sure, because by then my father and my mother would have come from the market with a little they were able to make, and then we'll eat dinner. Of course, happily as a family, and we go to bed to continue the following day. So growing up from my primary school days was that difficult. And then here came secondary school, and I enrolled in JS1. I went to a community secondary school, so to say. And there too, we had such challenges. Sometimes you don't have sandals to go to school. It takes a week or 2 for my parents to get them for me. But I didn't give up, I had mates who were neighbors. So sometimes I'll go to their houses when I know they have closed from school, collect their notes and copy. Even though I was not able to be physically in school for one reason or the other. And I kept reading the notes at home and preparing myself until the day I go back to school. So the passion for education was there right from time. And so I forged on. I went through secondary school, I finished. And that was when I really knew what life is. Because after secondary school, I faced a lot of challenges, a lot of hurdles in this life. At a point, my mother didn't have enough money to be doing her petty trading. And as I said earlier, my father was a teller. And somebody who is deaf and dumb, you can imagine, he does not have that ability to call customers, Perhaps maybe make new customers like his counterparts who could talk and could shout out at people to come with, clothing for them to sew and all that. So he depended solely on, maybe people he knew already, or who had maybe the sympathy. Because for some of them to come and even explain to a deaf person how to sew a particular article was difficult. So they were not forthcoming, except for people who were perhaps very used to him and who could understand and use the sign language. So he was not always bringing anything home. And when my mother's business crashed, so to say, it became very difficult. So what did I do? Well, I'm the 3rd out of 6 children, but I'm the first male. So the responsibility now dawned on me to do something else. There was going to be a very big problem. So what did I do? I had to go out. I did menial jobs. I served medicine. Today I can build, though I'm not a builder by profession, or I don't do that now, but I can build because I served medicine. I can count very many buildings in Makurdi where I served medicine for those buildings to be erected. So I did such things, and I continued in that light. The little money I will get from the daily pay, because it was daily pay then, I'll bring it home, and sometimes I'm able to give my mom this money to maybe buy soup or buy something in the house. And by the time this thing is prepared and we're eating, I'm happy that, perhaps I'm not that fully grown yet, but I can help with something for my family. And this was a very big challenge, because it's not very easy to provide food or money for things in the house. What about myself? What about taking care of myself? And then you could maybe talk about things like health. What if somebody gets sick? It used to be a very, very big challenge. I remember how many times we had to go to the nearby chemist to beg to be treated, perhaps of malaria, because that is very common around here, And then sometimes when we get the money, we go back to pay this chemist or the pharmacist or so. So it wasn't very easy. But school was always on my mind. So how was I to forge ahead with school? I went to the College of Advanced and Professional Studies. Then it was School of Remedial Studies, Makurdi, where I did a 1-year IJMBE program. There too, it was not easy for me. Sometimes I had to survive from the food my mates gave me in school. And when I finished that program, I came back home and I told myself that I must look for something better to do to help myself and my family, even while I still had that desire to go to school. That was when I started teaching. So I got to primary school. I remember Tinamdo Nursery and Primary School in Makurdi. I started teaching there, the nursery section. And the little money I was getting from there, I was still bringing it home. And then I also started the program with the Radio Benue Makurdi then. I was an artist and we were doing the programs. Though the money was still little, but it was something. To me, it was big. I know people start from sometimes very humble or little beginnings. So no matter how little somebody starts, you don't say, okay, this is too small. It cannot bring anything. I think even the mustard seed, that is a very small seed, when you plant it, it grows into a very big tree. So sometimes it is from these humble beginnings that people start. So I started teaching and I continued teaching. My school delayed. It was a very big challenge. I didn't like that, but there was nothing I could do. I couldn't still to further my education. And I had no one to help me because my parents could not at that point. In fact, that was when I took over sponsoring myself through school. So I started doing this teaching job until at some point, I remember that was 2000, I now enrolled for a diploma program with the Benue State University where I did a diploma in mass communication. But how was I doing that? I'll go to work, that is the teaching job in the morning, close by 1 or 2, go home, take my bath, because the evening program, the diploma program was an evening program. So I'll go to the program in the evening and will close by night. So I sponsored myself to do the diploma program. And then after that, I didn't stop there because I wanted a degree. I needed to have a degree. Because I knew that with only the diploma, perhaps I will not go far. And I want to go far in life. Where I am today is because I encouraged myself to go to school and get a higher certificate. So I had to go back to school. And that was where one of the biggest challenges in my life came. I was going to stop the teaching job completely to go back to school for a degree program. So I enrolled for the degree program. I was given the admission, still in Benue State University. And then I stopped teaching and went back to school full time. In fact, I was living in school on campus. And the big challenge came. Where was my school fees going to come from? I went back to the radio where I was doing the casual work of being an artist, doing some programs here and there and all. The money was not much. I enrolled for my degree program in 2001. And what I was being paid in Radio Benue as an artist fee for a week was 100 naira. So if you can imagine the value of 100 naira in 2001 to 2004 when I finished, it was still not much. In a whole month, I was going to be making only 400 naira. And my school fees in Benue State University was 3,500 naira. So what I did was that I decided that I was going to put food aside. I'll starve myself to make sure that the little money I collected was saved for my school fees. And I started saving that money. Every month, 400 naira. My school fees for a semester was 3,500 naira. And I continued like this. And any little money, perhaps maybe gift or something that somebody gave me, I didn't used to spend it on anything. In fact, I forgot about anything, even clothes. The little I had, I was managing it. You see, students dress up very well and, display all sort of wealth and all. But I didn't mind those things because my focus was in my education. Because I knew that if I get that, I was going to be something in life. So I managed that little money. Sometimes I would drink garri in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening. Because that was the only food I had sometimes for weeks. But I didn't mind. I was just focused on my school. So I was doing this program Perhaps it was a night program. I would do it in the evening. During the day, I was in school. So I continued like this for 3 years because I was given 200 level because of my IGMB program. So I did 3 years in the university to read English. And I graduated in 2004. Of course, when I went for my service in 2005, 2006, things were a little bit better because I was collecting the monthly allowance, the monthly NYC allowance. I served in Enugu State, but you can imagine that even at that, I was still the one that was trying to provide little for my family. I was sending the money home, half of the money home for their upkeep because completely they didn't have anything. And that made my younger ones to stop school because there was nobody. I couldn't sponsor them. If I sponsored them through school, then it means we were not going to eat or they were not going to eat. So I had to send the little I had for their upkeep until when I finished NYSC and came back in 2006. That was when, with the degree I had, I got a teaching job in a secondary school, St. Joseph Secondary School, Niman. And then, to some extent, we became a little bit stabilized. And my younger ones had to go back to school. So from the time I entered university till when I finished and went for service and came back, for a period of 4 to 5 years, none of them was going to school, the ones that finished secondary school, because someone had to pay their school fees in secondary school. It was when I came back and started teaching that I had to do that for them. What am I trying to say here? Sometimes it is not always very easy for people. For me, I know what I went through. It was very difficult at some point. I looked up to God, I prayed to God, and at the end of the day, I got answers, I got directions, and I followed them. And I think it helped me so much. So after that, after teaching for a while in Benue State, yes, I now enrolled for a master's degree program, still at Benue State University. So today I have a Master of Arts in Literature because I teach English language and I teach literature, and that is what I read in school. And in fact, today I'm a published writer because I have a collection of short stories.
Stay tuned and we will be right back.
I encourage anyone who feels like they are struggling with anything in life and they feel like there's just no way out for them. I guarantee you there is way out because I have been there. So my story is no different than your story. My story took a different path because of the way I approached it. But my story could be your story as well because my story is Nigeria's story. So this is my story.
If I have the opportunity to relive my childhood, I think that I'm happy about the childhood I had. Happy because I know very many people in this life who have even gone farther than I have. Perhaps because of the experiences that they had as children, which helped to strengthen them, which helped to toughen them for this life. Because the challenges one is having today, you never can tell the kind of challenges you may have tomorrow. So sometimes it's like a training for a future you don't know. The future is bleak. The future is something we don't know. We don't know what will happen tomorrow. So if you are having a challenge today, like the challenges I had when I was a child, I think they helped to build me to be who I am today, to be what I am today. Some challenges that I face today and I'm able to overcome them, it is because of what happened to me when I was a child. And at least I was able to withstand some of those challenges. They were not things that pulled me down completely. Of course, we had challenges of food sometimes in the house. These days, I can tell you I can go a whole day without food. It was the training. And sometimes when I'm working, sometimes I even forget that I'm hungry. Maybe when I finish the work and I will be like, oh, have I not eaten since morning? Sometimes I go from morning till 1 or 2 without eating. Honestly, I don't feel it. Though recently I have been found to have ulcer because of that. But what am I saying? There are certain things that happen to you maybe as a child. They are preparing you for the future. So it is good that even as children, some of these things will start coming in. Let us look at them. Let us look at the situations at a particular time and know how we can get out of those situations successfully, because they are preparing us for a greater success in life tomorrow. Now, I think that the government, the society, the family, the parents, even siblings, relations have a lot to do in helping to keep hope alive for people, for citizens, for family members. Let us start with the family. As parents, you bear these children, you bring them into this world. You have a very big responsibility. One, you provide for their needs. Sometimes it is difficult, just like I said in my story, that there were times we almost went on 001. But the parents should always be there for the child. Sometimes the moral support, the emotional support that you give your children or your family is what holds them, is what keeps them. And though my dad is deaf and dumb, he doesn't talk, my mother was always there to do that for us. She kept encouraging us, and I think that is what parents should do for their children. There are times that things are difficult in the family or in the society. Parents should be there to encourage their children not to give up. And they should not also give up, because they are the first role models that these children know. They are the first human beings that these children know. So the moral support is there. But in the case where they can provide for such needs, then they should never fail to do that, so that these children will not look out or go outside and perhaps maybe get themselves engaged in things that society frowns at, like stealing or cheating and what have you. Now, how does the government help people not to give up? There are so many things that the government can do. In recent times, we hear of people jumping, into the lagoon in Lagos and all that. That is not the solution to these problems. And when government hears about such things, how will they prevent, or how does the government prevent future occurrences? The social media is there. I mean, the mass media is there. The television, the radio, the newspapers. There are certain campaigns that even the National Orientation Agency can do. These are things that they should be engaged in. There are campaigns that can be carried out to give people faith, hope in the government of the day. What are those programs even that government is bringing up that will help the society? Today, many people are jobless. It is not all about government jobs or white-collar jobs. What other programs can government do? Okay, there was a time government was trying to help, medium-scale enterprises and all that, or people who don't have jobs, so that they can start something. You are told to start something as an entrepreneur. Tomorrow you can be an employer of labor. How do you start? Sometimes the money is not there. Banks can also come in to help people. There are microfinance banks here and there. So these are some of the programs that the government can engage in. But most importantly, I started by saying that the moral support has to be the first thing to do. Give people the hope. Talk to people. Carry out campaigns. There are some programs that can be carried out maybe on the radio, on the television, even in the newspapers. Sometimes even pamphlets, flyers can go around, so that it will help people have faith, one, in themselves, and then they will have faith in the government of the day. And then let us also see the government doing these things. He's not promising us this thing today, and in the next 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, we've not seen anything. People lose hope. They think, okay, tomorrow what am I going to do? Somewhere around, a man committed suicide because he didn't have money to, I think, take care of the family or something like that. But if you give people hope that tomorrow is going to be better, and we see the efforts of the government in doing these things, I think people will have faith in themselves, one, that they can do it. They won't lose that hope. And they will also have faith in government that, the government is going to help us in such areas. My message to youths out there is that they should never give up. That is a very, very important thing that everybody should do. Don't give up no matter what, because there is always an opportunity for you to get out of a difficult situation. Whatever situation that is, there's always something, somewhere that will trigger you to move, to do something, and you get yourself out of that situation. So you shouldn't give up in life. Hope should always be kept alive. And remember that when you keep hope alive, you walk towards actualizing something. You walk towards making something. You don't relax back and expect even your family, your friends, your relations, or the government to do everything for you. What do you as an individual do? What efforts have you put in? For me, I made efforts. At some times, I had to sponsor myself through school and all that. My story is one that encourages you, the youth out there, never to give up, no matter the situation. There are times that are difficult. There are situations that are difficult. There are conditions that are tough. But with that focus and faith in yourself, faith in your God, and you walk towards it, you are going to make it in life, just like me, just like every other person out there. And this is my story.
And that's it on My Story today. For your comments and suggestions, please send a text or WhatsApp message to 0806 004 2843. Thank you for staying tuned.